guys, welcome to Multiverse. Someone suggested not too long ago to make a Blade video, so I thought, why not? I probably should have made it last weekend during the big announcement about who's going to be the new Blade. Sorry, sadly I forget the actor's name, although it's a bit challenging also to pronounce, so I won't even try. So here you can recreate a pretty darn good version of our friend Blade using the Gunslinger chest piece. I'm using the retro pants. For the boots, there's a whole bunch of boots you could use. Here I went with the owl boots. The gloves, these are the biker gloves. The same with the glasses. And for the sword, I will show you the name because odds are I will butcher it as well. So for the sword in the back, it's the Themysciran Battlesuit sword. There is another sword you can use in the back, the Amazon Soldier, but I much prefer the other one. So for the back piece, again, I much prefer this sword than the other one. It looks nothing like the sword that Blade was using, but with the options that we have right now in DC Universe Online, I guess this is my favorite sword that you can have in the back. And I was a big fan of Blade as he was played by Wesley Snipes. Right now, I was hoping that they would use Wesley Snipes again in the upcoming Marvel Universe movies. Sadly, they went with, his name is Mahershala Ali or something like that. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. It's a little bit challenging for a little old me. But it's a pretty nice looking Blade character that you can make in this Universe Online. Although there's a few times in the movies when Blade would only have like a short sleeve chest piece, the best option I could see is the Green Arrow chest piece, the high-tech tactical suit. Sadly, there's a bit of clipping as you can see with the sword, but within the context of DC Universe Online, this is about the better option that we have. For the boots, here I went with the Midnight boots. There's again half a dozen kind of boots you could use. The same with the gloves. There's half a dozen kind of gloves you could use. I just decided to go with these gloves. Although all the way back in the 70s, Blade did kind of look more like this here. Basically, he had this big jacket, and he had this strap with a whole bunch of stakes in it. This is a bit closer to what Blade used to look like. I will show another option in just a minute. For the boots, I went with the Blackhawk boots, the same with the pants. It kind of sort of mimics what Blade used to have. For the chest piece, I went with the Lethal Zealot chest piece, the same with the belt. And the glasses are the goggles. Basically, he had a pair of goggles way back when. And he had a pretty big afro at the time. And I love using afro. I don't use it often enough. And I rarely get, I guess, a good opportunity to be able to use a good afro. So today I took the opportunity to do so. I know some people will say it's not very politically correct, but I love a big afro. I guess if the big afro is too offensive for some people, they could go for the smaller one. And this is almost kind of like the jacket that... well, not exactly, but Blade had like a looser fitting jacket. So if we could get a cross between like this jacket and the one I had before, the Lethal Zealot one, it would get us a bit closer to our friend Blade. Sadly, within the context of DC Universe Online, sometimes we have to make choices. So basically, this and the other version. If I could get like a mixture of those two, that would give us a perfect Blade from the 70s. And of course, we have to show the evil Dracula. Basically, Blade started it within the pages of Dracula. It was one of the enemies that Dracula was fighting. So Blade pretty much started as an antagonist for the evil Dracula. I'm not sure why I say Dracula, it's Dracula, but it happens. Dracula, the classic Dracula is easy enough to recreate using the business suit, the chest piece, the pants, and the feet. That's all the business suit. And with the Mr. Miracle cape, it's almost perfect, although as you can see there is quite a bit of clipping. Oh well. Maybe it would work a bit better with the Zatara chess piece that we have now in the Justice League Dark Vendor. Oh well. For the cape, it should be black on the outside and red on the inside. The best way I was able to sort of kind of mimic that was using the void material. Although, if you don't have the void material, it's simple enough. Just put the cape black and it'll work well enough. So this is about as close to the classic Dracula from the Marvel comics from the 70s as I was able to get. And of course, obviously I had to use the swarming bats. I had no choice. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I think, they tried to bring back Dracula, and somehow it didn't work so well. The first thing they did is that I guess they thought the character looked too dated, so they pretty much tried to give him a more modern look, which is a disaster. You should have a ponytail. I couldn't find a style. We don't really have a style to be able to reproduce the ponytail that our friend Dracula had in the late 90s, early 2000s. But basically they gave him this sort of armored look with a whole bunch of scales and stuff like that. And this is pretty darn close to the look that they gave him all the way back when. For the back piece, I went with the tattered cloak of corruption. For the gloves and the boots, I went with the raptor gloves and boots. For the chest piece, it's the malevolent knight. And the pants, it's the snake pants. So this is pretty darn close to what the character did look like in the comics. Although as far as I can tell, it wasn't very successful, so I don't think they used him quite a lot. Although they did try to have this sort of crossover with the X-Men, where the X-Men ended up fighting a whole bunch of vampires. I guess they were trying to reproduce a bit in the mid 80s. There was a storyline where the X-Men met the evil Dracula. I think there's even a storyline where Storm was bitten by Dracula and turned into a vampire for like 2 issues. But as far as I can tell, this version of Dracula not very successful, and it didn't last very long. So that is pretty much it for our friend Blade. Again, we can recreate a pretty darn good version of Blade within DC Universe Online. And sadly, for those of you who did enjoy Wesley Snipes as Blade, it seems that that time has passed. We're going to get a new Blade in the Marvel movies, although Marvel have announced their movies for the next 2 years, and there's no Blade movies within that. So we can safely assume that we won't get a Blade movie for at least 2 more years. So in 3 years, with a bit of luck, we should have a new Blade. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So that's pretty much it for now, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to ask so in the comment section down below, and I'll see what I can do about answering your questions. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. For those of you who are still around, a bit of trivia. When I was a young man, eons ago, my hair was really dry, and it was almost as strong as steel wool. So if I would let it grow way back when, I would end up with a pretty big afro. That lasted until easily my mid 20s. Actually even later than that, but at some point my hair wasn't as strong as it used to be. So nowadays, if I let it grow, it doesn't really create an afro. But way back when I was a young man, if I did let it grow, I had this really big awesome afro. It's a bit of a secret, but now you know.